Arsenal fans the last couple of weeks. It's whereas Manchester City, we're saying they found a way to win at Nottingham Forest. They had been free-flowing before that. Arsenal have had own goals come to the party for them. They won their last game with the penalty as well. That was against Everton. It's been a very different feeling to perhaps earlier on in the season.
Yeah, it has, and that's what pressure does to you. But I think, as we just spoke about Manchester City, you find a way of getting it done, and Arsenal are doing that. And whether it be the attackers scoring goals or defences, putting their bodies on the line, they have looked quite nervous when they've gone ahead, but still at the same time they're still finding a way to get the wins, and eventually that kind of free-flowing football will come back. But it's about margins and percentages, and right now Arsenal are using that to their advantage.
What does it tell you that they have so many own goals in the last couple of games?
I know what you're saying, but it don't really tell me a lot, to be fair. It's just one of those things that's really unfortunate. I know what you're saying. They're still putting the balls into good areas, and that's the most important thing, and people are challenging them. So I'd say more about the delivery and a good build-up play as well. But the one thing I'll say is Declan Rice played right back. They got Aston Villa in the week. You don't want Declan Rice at right back, because I think Arsenal misses driving force in the middle. But they have had a lot of injuries, but having Gabriel back, coming onto the pitch, huge boost for Arsenal.
Yeah, I think their defensive worries have been well documented, but that man in between the sticks there, and as I mentioned,
my goodness,
is this a goal-saving save from David Raya, perhaps save of the season?
This must be Clinton, I'll let you say.
Oh, this is magnificent. Listen, when I was watching this, Jules, I was like, oh, goal, what a finish from Minter. But look at this. This is unbelievable from David Raya. And come the end of the season, if Arsenal go on and win, you won't forget about this, will it, Benny?
What a save that is. Even Minter looks at it and goes, if it's scored. But that is why you've got a top-quality goalkeeper in David Raya. When they first brought him in over Aaron Ramsdale, I thought, I didn't quite see the uplift in terms of bringing him in. But that save there tells you all you need to know about David Raya. He has been one of the best goalkeepers in Europe the last couple of seasons. Yeah,
because that was when the game was 2-1. That's the difference between a victory and a draw. And those 2 points are what keeps Arsenal top of the table, really. Manchester City still breathing down their necks, 40 points. Then Aston Villa just 1 point behind. There is no breathing room between the top three. And Arsenal and Aston Villa, as you already mentioned, Clinton, go toe-to-toe. Manchester City will be watching that one.
That's a big game. That is a huge game. Listen, I think it'll be like this for most of the season. It's brilliant. We don't want just one team running away with it, unless you're Arsenal, Man City, or Aston Villa. But this is a big game. But I do think Arsenal will be too strong for Aston Villa. I do think that. I think Arsenal will win it. I just thought I'd put it out there, Jules. I know you didn't ask me that, but I think Arsenal will be too strong for it.
Oh, it's a big one. We'll all be looking ahead to that one in one of the last rounds of Premier League action before. Well, I get what he's saying there. There's still a lot of football to be played, but they are contenders, whether he wants to admit it or not. Aston Villa are the form team in the Premier League right now. Look at that, 8 Premier League wins in a row.
Yeah, 100%. I know we talk about Arsenal being in the title race, Manchester City, and Villa are right there with those two teams, of course. And with the form that they're showing, 8 wins in a row, I think it's 11 in all competitions.
Yeah.
In all competitions, they are absolutely flying right now. He's got a squad of players there that believe in what he's doing. But what he's done there in a, I won't say a short space of time now, he's been there a couple of years now, is he's transformed them into a team now that can go toe-to-toe with anybody. It's just, can they do it over sustained 38 games? But right now, they are certainly one of the informed teams, not only in the Premier League, but in Europe.
You can understand why he wouldn't want to have any talk of a title race, because his team right now, the way they are playing, if you look at Arsenal and City, the energy is very different at Aston Villa. They are enjoying it. The celebrations with the fans kind of tell you everything. And they're not playing with any pressure, really. No,
they're not. His interview is brilliant. He's not putting pressure on his players. Within inside and in the dressing room, they don't know what they need to do. But when he's asked, and when people are going to interview him and say, are we in the title race? No. If the season was over in a couple of weeks, then, yeah, we are in a title race. But no, that's a fantastic result to go to Chelsea. Because in the first 60 minutes, they were nowhere near it. They didn't turn up. This substitution of Ollie Watkins changed the game. I thought he was fantastic, caused all kinds of problems. But, yeah, big result for Aston Villa. And then they go to Arsenal in midweek, and that's a huge football match.
Yeah, especially considering what happened when they played each other. What was it, just 2 weeks ago?
OK, let's get to it then. The title race dominates a lot of the back pages in the Sunday papers. The Sun on Sunday, thirsty work is the headline after Arsenal's victory over Brighton at the Emirates. John, it is a win, albeit a cagey one. Are they convincing you more or not so much that they're going to end that 22-year wait?
Cagey or nervy, Dharmesh? I would say nervy, probably. I do like that back page because it sort of kind of focuses on Martin Odegaard there, who opened up the scoring, didn't he, with that wonderful goal. And I do think Odegaard, I think it's terrific captain, really respected by his peers and teammates, and the sort of leader for Arteta on the pitch. So I think it was good that he gets his form. But Arsenal missing a few players. 2-0, they're cruising, and you think, oh, this is a good response to earlier in the day. Man City, obviously, a really impressive, hard-fought, ground-out win at sort of Nottingham Forest. And Arsenal have to respond. And you think, wow, OK, they're in the zone here, they're going to do it, and they're going to do it comfortably. And at 2-0, they were putting on the pressure for 3-0, and then suddenly they concede, and then all of a sudden you're feeling the nerves and the tension amongst Arsenal fans. I'm sure you could feel it within the ground. That's what it feels like at the moment. And they've gone from a place, I think, in sort of October, November, when they were winning games for fun and playing ever so well and free-flowing football and relaxing, to a place when they really needed one of the best saves you'll see this season, if not the best, from David Raya to tip it over, to maintain that 2-1 scoreline at the end. Because, wow, I mean, the Sunday Express even lead on the save, a ray of hope. And it really was that good. I mean, it was a remarkable save. But it does talk to some nerves in the Arsenal camp, and they are leaders, and they've got a massive game on Tuesday against Aston Villa, and it just feels as if, they're feeling the pressure, I think, much more than Man City, who've been there, done it, got the T-shirt. Aston Villa, who seem to be just enjoying the ride, if you like, and Arsenal, the fan expectation, the expectations in the ground, huge summer spending spree, who's, really sort of kind of taking the limelight out of those new signings. There's so much pressure and expectation on Arteta this year to win a trophy. I think he's done a great job at Arsenal overall, but he is expected to win a major trophy this year. All those things coming together, I think, is playing into that feeling of nerves.
Jason, John mentioned it there, the anxiety, the nervousness, the caginess almost. The Sunday Telegraph, they focus on that.
Arteta or the crowd?
Well, exactly. Emirates awash with anxiety, but Arsenal maintain top spot. Sam Dean, who was at the Emirates Stadium, says in recent weeks, the Emirates Stadium has become one of the most anxious arenas in European football. Arsenal are top of the Premier League and the Champions League, into the semi-finals of the Carabao Cup, but it feels like every home match is a source of maximum stress for the club supporters and the players. Mikel Arteta says it's because of a willingness to win, but is there a fine line between willingness and desperation?
Absolutely, yeah. And I think the desperation is winning at the moment. I think it doesn't take an awful lot for that atmosphere to emerge at the Emirates. I think it even goes back to the dog days of Arsene Wenger, that there was that kind of frustration that took over at times. Obviously, Arteta's moved that on quite a lot. There's much more unity around the ground, but I think that unity has become almost, as you say, that desperation to finally get over the line. This is a team that I think, once they do win the league, can probably go on and be a very dominant team for quite some time, notwithstanding what obviously Manchester City and Liverpool and others can do. I think the talent is there, the strength is there. I agree with John. I do like Mikel Arteta, although I do think at times he does need to calm down. On the touchline, I just think he transmits an awful lot of anxiety to the players, and you can see it at the Emirates. He is very, very engaged with what's going on the pitch, but sometimes it's a bit too much. And I think those moments come sometimes too early in games. It's almost like very early on they're almost sort of stressful and trying to score a goal very quickly and trying to and then after that it's almost like, right, we scored, now we can't concede, we can't lose. And I think they've got, and obviously it's part of being a maturing team and winning something, and as John says, I completely agree, he has to win a major trophy this year. And I say once they get over the line, if they get over the line, it will make a huge difference to them. It will be transformative to Arsenal once they win a major trophy again. I think it will be transformative, but it's that anxiety and that desperation, as you talk about, that can they do it? And I have to admit, I do slightly fear for them. I fear that it's been so good in some ways up until this point, top of the Champions League table as well, but still haven't won anything yet. So it's a long way to go, and I would worry a lot if I was them at Manchester City, because they're looking really strong.
Maybe Arsenal are having their bad patch right now and they're still winning, because let's be honest, the Wolves game was really bad, but they won it. Last week at Everton, I was at Everton and they weren't convincing, but they won. Yesterday they weren't great, but they won. So we all remember, what was it, 4 or 5 weeks ago, that they beat Tottenham to 6 points clear. Everyone's saying Arsenal running away with it. This is the bad patch, and they're still top of the league. So perhaps this is a positive, that the weathering the storm. And I know they've got a tough January coming up. They've got Villa on Tuesday, like you say. If they win that game, then all of a sudden that's a big
It's
moment.
one of two things, isn't it? It's either that, and I agree with Mark, it could well be that, because every team has a wobble, don't they, during the season? You can't just seamlessly go on and win every single game. But at the start of the season, we're talking about Liverpool in a similar way, weren't we? When they were winning all those games, we were thinking, oh, they're just getting over the line, and then it suddenly fell away. So it could go that way as well.
There's a different narrative with Liverpool. It was almost like they've won the title, so they're winning 5 on the bounce. And even though they weren't playing well, it's because Liverpool, that's what they do. With Arsenal, it's like, oh, this is what Arsenal do, they're wobbling. But beat Villa, right, that's a tough call because Villa are on a great run at the moment. But I mean, I do think that Arsenal have got a tough January, especially at home. They've got Villa this week, then they've got Liverpool, then they've got Man United. So the next 3 home games are really big. But come through January, if you're still unbeaten at home, then all of a sudden, maybe this was the wobble and maybe they're kind of showing the kind of the bottle right now. So I still think Arsenal are the best squad in the league. Yeah. And I think we've kind of put a little bit too much emphasis on Man City because it's Pep. If they lose Erling Haaland, then Man City are a different team completely. So I just think if you're an Arsenal fan, just calm down, stay calm, and it might just turn itself out in a positive way.
John, in your paper, Neil McClellan, who's at the Emirates, says the good news for Arsenal fans is that the Gunners held off a late Brighton fight back to return to the top of the table. The bad news is that there's potentially another 5 months of this nerve-jangling anxiety to go this season. Now, Jason mentioned about Mikel Arteta and his demeanour, and maybe that's adding to the anxiety. I don't know what you think, but whenever I've been at his news conferences, you're there every week like I am, I've noticed something different with Mikel Arteta this time, and he seems to be a little bit more relaxed. Maybe at odds to what Jason is saying.
Before John says that, sorry, I agree with him. Press conferences, I'm talking about on the touchline. That's what I'm talking about. Sorry, go on.
No, I was going to agree with you. I think his general demeanour has changed. Yeah. And I also think he has improved. We're starting from a low base here, in terms of behavioural standards, terms. But I do actually think then that he has... There's no doubt about it. When you are too anxious, when you are too het up, when you are screaming and, being too overzealous on that touchline, it resonates to players. It really does.
But Jurgen Klopp did it at Liverpool.
They embraced it, didn't they? Exactly. And Jurgen Klopp was a brilliant manager for Liverpool. But I think with Mikel Arteta, I think
it works for Arsenal?
I think it makes them nervous. But I must say, I think the point I was going to make, stop boys, basically, is that I actually think he's dramatically improved that. Whether you like that or not, I still think he's over anxious on the touchline. But from where he's come from, I think it's one of his big improvements as a manager.
No, I agree with that.
This season, look, and I tell you where that's borne out, is borne out in their disciplinary record, which is yellow cards is a sort of kind of a little bit mid-table, but they haven't had a sending off. Well, last season, injuries and sendings off, you could argue, completely undermined their title challenge. Well, they haven't had one this season. I think that's testament to Arteta's improvement, and I do actually think that's perhaps a little bit underestimated and undervalued. I still think he could calm down a bit, but if he calms down, do you lose Arteta's passion, enthusiasm and the drive and the coach that he is? Honestly, over the course of the piece, basically, over the 6 years, he's done a remarkable job. But I do think ultimately he will, and he knows this, he'll be judged on what he wins and judged on what he, achieves as a manager, and that's got to be trophies. But I do think Mark's right. They're basically top of the Premier League, top of the Champions League. But the nerves. If last season it was injuries, we've got a bit of injuries this season. If this season they don't win it, I think it'll be down to nerves and tension.
Mark, just picking up on what you said, maybe this is Arsenal's sticky patch. Riyadh Al-Samurai in the Mail on Sunday says if Arsenal are to finally hold their nerve in the title race, then Mikel Arteta ought to spend the entirety of next summer writing notes of thanks to those who helped them through these festive weeks. Own goals are the gifts that keep on giving. If you look at their last 4 games in all competitions, the 2-1 victory against Wolves, 2 own goals. It was a penalty that separated them from Everton. There was an own goal, albeit in the Carabao Cup, against Crystal Palace. And the decisive goal, what ended up being the decisive goal against Brighton, was an own goal as well. What should we read into that, if anything?
Well, I think what we read into that is the fact that they're still getting results. Every team has most teams in normal title-winning seasons have a wobble. They have a difficult period. And I think this is Arsenal's now. And I think, had it gone the other way, had they lost those games or drawn those games, then we could say that the nerves have been affray. But I just think it's easy with Arsenal because I think we've all been to the Emirates and it can be an edgy stadium. The fans they're very quick to, not turn, but they're very quick to get anxious. So it's an easy narrative to play into it that Arsenal fans are nervous, it's going to cost them the title. I don't know. I just think that it shows a character that they've got that they can get over the line of these games. And you talk about Arteta's, I won't say antics on the touchline, but I think what it is with Arteta, I think he knows that he still hasn't got a player on the pitch who can do that for him. So, you go back to the classic captains, like the Roy Keanes at Man United, even, Van Dijk at Liverpool. The manager can stand back and know that he's got a guy on the pitch who can do all that kind of ranting and raving and organising on the pitch. I still think Arsenal are quite naive sometimes on the pitch, quite young. I mean, they're not the youngest team, but they have a bit of inexperience. They haven't got like a Kevin De Bruyne that Man City had that could just guide them through games. I think that's Declan Rice's potential role. Maybe Martin Odegaard as captain, but they're still not quite there yet. So I think Arteta has to kind of almost micromanage from the touchline because he needs someone on the pitch to do it for him. So I think everyone at Arsenal needs to calm down a bit.
John,
it's still going well.
John, we're talking about these own goals, and I guess it's shining a light on Arsenal's attacking players, and in particular, a man we've spoken about throughout this season in Victor Gyökeres. Not just his performance yesterday, but just generally, when everybody is fit, because Kai Havertz is coming back, Gabriel Jesus has just returned, Mikel Merino's played a role up front as well. When everybody is fit, is he the guy for you that's going to spearhead Arsenal's title challenge for the rest of the season?
No, I don't think he can do it. I honestly, I worry about him a bit, and I think that he, in fairness to him, £64 million, and basically, there's a lot of Arsenal fans saying, well, he does a great job for the team and he works hard. My word, you expect a bit more from that. If you really go all in, as Arsenal did, for a striker, you expect goals too, and he's just not scoring enough. He's not contributing enough to the game. Look at his few number of touches that, again, he was barely involved yesterday, and he's really struggling, I think. In fairness to him, before he got injured at Burnley, and at that point I thought, here we go, he's scoring, and he scored at Burnley, and he was leading the charge, he was leading the press, and we think, OK, this is what it's going to be about. He was a kind of a real sort of kind of bull in the china shop, really working hard and sort of leading the press, and basically also scoring and then contributing to the team. And since he's come back from Burnley, bearing in mind he didn't have a pre-season, in fairness to him, there's a few sort of kind of strikers obviously struggling from that aspect this season. But I worry about him. And I think Arteta's kind of caught in this place where he's putting him in because he could see that he was realising his potential and is sticking with him to kind of get him that opportunity to get back to where he was and where he was threatening to be. But I actually think at the same time it's a mistake because Gabriel Jesus comes on, looks much better, he looks sharp, he looks quick, he looks, very skillful, his touch. And I think Kai Havertz will still be, when fit again, will be Arteta's first choice number 9. I don't think it's worked for Gyökeres yet. And I think of all the big signings and the statement signings in the summer, that's the one under the microscope. It's always going to be like that with the centre forward. Has he got potential to turn it around? I think so. But I look at him at times and he just looks sluggish and slow. I don't think he is. But when you're struggling like that form-wise, my word, you look at it on the pitch.
Jason, doesn't seem to be the same issues if you're Manchester City because the goals now, whereas before we were talking about